bring up our gorgeous guests, I do want to remind you, we are still in the middle of a SAG-AFTRA strike. So please remember, we will not be discussing former projects, but this is also kind of a boon, actually, because it gives us an opportunity to ask questions that these three don't normally get to be asked. So we get to do a little more of a personal deep dive into some weird things like your opinions on candy corn or, things of that nature, coming up on the Halloween season. So let me go ahead and it is my absolute pleasure and privilege. Whoa! Wow. Okay, making sure that I've got everybody correct. Let me bring up, can I have a huge, huge round of applause for Melissa Gilbert first. Karen Grassle. Come on up, Karen. Come on up, Karen. Come on up. Karen Grassle. I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Alison Arngrim. That was the hardest. Now, first and most importantly, of course, Alison, you need to tell us about your sock monkey.
Oh, yes. Some of you, how many people get the Nellie newsletter? Ah, very good. Then you know that after you read about where she's going to be and where she's going to be and where I'm going to be, you get the saga of Sock Monkey included. Secret Agent Sock Monkey, International Monkey of Mystery. I know he has fans here, so I had to bring him.
Can you show off his beautiful Comic-Con shirt?
Yeah, of course, because he's at Comic-Con, so he's got, the Star Wars t-shirt and jeans. He's totally into that.
Got to dress for the occasion, Well, first of all, ladies, thank you so much for being here and joining us today. We are so, so proud to have you with us. So I would love to know a little bit more about let's do some random questions. So obviously we all know what you're famous here for, but do you have any useless or random skills?
Oh,
I got that.
We do. All of us do. Do we have useless or random skills? I think
useless or random skills.
Yeah,
random
anything
skills
that like a hidden talent or anything that we don't currently know about.
I've become a bit of a crafter.
You juggle.
In my later years, I knit, I cross stitch. I'm learning how to quilt now, and I can juggle.
She's a very good juggler. I've seen her. She's really good at juggling.
Any particular objects that you juggle?
It's just 3 things. I can't juggle beyond 3 things. Actually, it was something I learned in high school when we were in physiology class. Our teacher gave us extra credit when we were studying the brain if we could learn how to juggle. And I would do anything for extra credit. So I learned how to juggle. Last time I juggled eggs, actually, on a show that I can't say the name of.
Oh my God!
It's very, very good training for actors.
Juggling, yeah.
Yes. Karen or Alison, do you have any secret hidden talents?
I don't think so. I think I put it all out there. I like to hike.
Now I cook. Some of you do know that. Nellie couldn't cook, I can, so I have the cooking videos. I guess my hidden talent is I know how to fix a garbage disposal with a broomstick.
That's impressive. I hope you all understand how impressive that is.
That's very impressive.
Now, are there any jobs that you would be absolutely terrible at?
Anything that requires height.
Scared of heights?
No, I'm just not tall.
My first job when I was a kid was in retail. And I was very good at it because I was crazy about clothes. And I liked to help arrange them. I liked to know everything that had just come in. And I would show everybody the latest thing. And then that summer they were having the people go on vacation and they put me in the office. Well, that was a disaster. I broke out in hives. They put me on the switchboard, and I was like, you don't know what a switchboard is, but you had to plug in all these different things depending on the extension and who was calling, and oh dear, I lost a lot of people.
Okay, now, so many of my friends have worked in restaurants and food service, and I'm a big tipper because that is a job I was never, ever, ever, ever able to do. I did do it briefly on the show. There was some, 2 lamb stews, carton my coffee. That's the most I've ever been. Carrying 2 plates is like scary. If I had ever attempted to work in a restaurant, there would have been hot soup in people's laps. I wouldn't have known the orders. I'd have spilled. It would have been absolutely been crashing of dishes. So I just didn't do it. Not because I didn't think waiting tables was a good job, but I would suck at it so badly that I had to learn to type instead. So there you are. So I have great respect, and I honor anyone who can wait a table and actually carry more than 2 things, because I'm terrified of that. No, can't.
So maybe juggling is not in your future either.
Juggling back. No.
Excellent. So let's ask a little bit more about your history with acting as a profession. So were there people that were namely in your corner encouraging you when you first got started acting?
Well, they were so young. I mean, the little baby was going goo-goo, and the mommies were going, I think there's talent there.
In all fairness, we all sort of feel that way too when we see how cute our kids are for like a half a second. There's a thought, oh, maybe, no.
How old were you, Melissa? Your first gig, how old were you?
2.
Holy.
Clearly, I obviously didn't say to my parents, I think I want to be an actor now. And 2, but my family is multiple generational.
Your
back
Hollywood
to
legacy family.
Vaudeville, and actually even the circus. My father started out with Ringling Brothers when he was 8. He was an acrobat in the circus. And his mother, before him, was a trapeze artist in France.
Wow.
And so it just was in our family. And there was that moment where one of my mom's friends said, she could get an agent and do commercials. And my mom said, really? She sort of was, briefly reluctant until then I started auditioning and getting them.
Louis, I waited till 5. My SAG card says member since 1967. People are like, "Are you 100? What? How?" It's like really weird. But my whole family were actors. They met in the theater in Canada. My parents actually ran the Totem Theater in Vancouver, British Columbia. If any Canadians has Totem Theater, that's my mom and dad. So the whole family, everybody was an actor. My uncle was a concert violinist. My aunt was a concert soprano. It's everybody. So it was just like a normal thing. Everybody was expected to perform or do something or play the violin, or at least. And so I had an agent. I had Batman's agent as a child. Lou Sherrill was Adam West's agent. So I was very cool in the 60s. I had Batman's agent. It was really cool. So yeah, I started working as a tiny whippersnapper indeed. So yeah, they were all encouraging. They're like, go, do it, yeah.
When I was a kid, I loved dancing, performing in the school play, all of that stuff. And my mother was adamant that she would never be a stage mother. And she had really strong feelings about that, and in a way that protected me. So I had a very well-rounded childhood from that standpoint. I got to ride my bike to the beach and make a fair with the neighborhood kids in the backyard and be very free. I treasure the fact that I was able to be free. The town was safe, the bus was cheap, we lived close to the hills and close to the beach, and I have to say I was very, very lucky. And even though these two will tell you they didn't miss their childhood, I feel like, how can you know if you had to be well-disciplined, as these two had to be, I'm sure, in something we're not talking about.
It cannot be named.
So I was really resisting going into show business. We lived only an hour outside of Hollywood, but I was fearful of show business in a way. And so I went off to college. I did And then I did my first play in college, and that was it. I never looked back, you know. From then on, it was, where can I go to learn more? Where can I go to act? And I acted every summer in contemporary drama festival and Shakespeare festivals, and finally made my way to England to study at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art on a Fulbright. And I was like, this is it. You know, I was so thrilled to be able to get that training and then come back feeling, you know, prepared for what I was trying to do. So I didn't have the same natural brilliance, you know. I had to really work hard.
Thank you, more light. That worked out. Do you have any funny audition stories that you can share with us?
Oh, I have a kind of a recent one. I can't say what it was for.
That's not what's important.
It was first a thing on the box thing, produced by Ryan Murphy, and this was years ago. It was the thing on the box of the thing about plastic surgery that he did. That's sort of an end run around saying the name. I hope that works. And I loved that thing, and I really wanted to be a part of that thing. And so they had me come in and audition, and I did get the job, but I was so nervous and excited that I was doing this, and the audition itself went great. And as I was leaving, I was just saying how much I loved it and what a wonderful opportunity it was, and I turned around and I walked right into a big metal sculpture of a palm tree thing in the office, knocked it over, tripped over it, fell, cut my shin. All the while they're going, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. I'm so fine. I'm so, thank you so much for having me here." And it was just a real pleasure. And I got to my car, and my agent called, and he said, "I don't know what you did, but you got the part." So it turned out okay, but I was, needless to say, and I think I was 40. So there was just no excuse for that kind of behavior.
I think maybe they were impressed with how you were able to play off that you had been so severely injured.
Yes, because the role was of a woman who'd had a terrible accident with her dog. If you ever saw the thing with the thing and the thing, you saw the thing with the thing. There was a thing and a dog and the thing. Anyway, boy, this is very informative.
If I recall, I sent you texts teasing you about that role. Yes, we made up like terrible names for you.
Yes, you did.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
You
thank
know,
you.
actors are never supposed to show that they're hurt or tired or vulnerable, except when acting. So, you know, you just open up your guts and your soul, and then you're supposed to be just fine. Thank you very much. And don't be weak, be strong. So it's a demanding one, yeah.
It is. I have a friend who calls it Dr. Show. It's amazing how I could have 104 fever and raging strep throat, but as soon as the camera's rolling, I sound normal.
Lynn Redgrave called it Dr. Theater.
Dr. Footlights was what the one I was told. The same thing.
Crazy.
It's like, oh, got a shot of Dr. Footlights. I'm good to go.
Any other? Yeah. Any other?
Oh yeah,
I
I'm sure it's
have a horrible audition story. I have a horrible audition story, and I can't tell the title of the movie because I can't even remember what the hell this thing is. So bad. I got the part and turned it down. It was that bad. Wound up with the agent going, "I can't do this. I'm gonna do this." So I go to the thing, I didn't know what the heck it was as a movie, and I get there, and years ago. You know, I suppose there's roles where if there's sexual material or nudity and it's like a really good part and it makes sense. I get, this was like, I did like Naked by page 2 for like no reason. It was bad. It was so bad. And it was a horrible thing where this woman, just every bad thing happens to her, just like kidnapped by a motorcycle gang and like all this like, disgusting, horrible, completely gratuitous, like ridiculous violence and sex. I'm like, whoa, this is like really awful. And I literally went out in the hall, and I think it was right before cell phones. I like called my agent. I was like, seriously? He goes, okay, yeah, don't do it. I said, should I just leave? He goes, yeah, go in and re-talk to them. They make a bunch of other stuff. Maybe, you know, that'd be fine. I went, okay, but this thing, he goes, no, I don't even want you to do it. I didn't get the whole script. That sounds disgusting. I didn't know they had that. I said, fine. So I said, and the scene that I speak, where she finally gets the drop on the horrible, violent, torturing motorcycle guy. She gets the gun, and there's a dead rat in a pool of motor oil. This is like the good part of the script. And she's got the head of the motorcycle gang and tells him to eat that rat.
Ew.
Like I said, this was the turning point in the movie where things were looking up for her. This was the that. And so I'm sitting there, and all of these women before me are in the room, and of course you can hear them through the door. Don't you hate that? You don't want to hear the other people's audition ever. And you hear them through the door, and I'm hearing, eat that rat, eat that rat, eat that rat. And it's just like, oh, I can't. And so finally I just went completely the opposite direction of everything anybody was doing. And I just went in and like one single tear down my cheek and went, eat that rat. So I got the part. And
turned it down.
They went berserk. And I'm like, no. And then I call my agent. He's like, no. And so he told me, no, thank you very much. And good to keep her in mind for other things. No, we're not doing this. They called like for 3 days, like raising the price. It was embarrassing. Oh, yeah. And my agent was like, no, really, she's not doing the rat picture. This is not happening. So I did not do it. I did not do that rat picture. Thank you. But I apparently did a great audition at you know, who knew? So it was horrifying.
It's a great gift not to want the part.
Oh, it's the best.
I made it so easy.
You're so free, you know. When you want it, you know, you do things like walk into the palm tree. But when you don't want it, you know, you're like relaxed. You don't care what they think of you. You just, you know, you're just there. And then they can't wait to get you. And now I've learned, well, of course, I am 81, so I have learned that if I don't like that script, I'm not going in. Because, you know, as actors, we just love to work. We love to work. So then when someone offers you something, your mind starts to rationalize. You know, it's not so bad. Well, yes, the character, yeah. But what about that horror scene? Yeah, but, you know, a lot of people are doing horror now. And that, you know, it's really bad. So I try not to show up if it's something I can't do.
You're smart, because I was starting to go like, well, she gets really empowered after she makes meet the rats, and maybe it's all.
Lord.
So let's pivot a little bit and talk about convention life. Yay. So, yes, because of course, that is why we're all here. Oh my God, imagine that. Do you have what are your most memorable convention experiences?
Be nice?
Someone says be nice.
I was just going to say, as a fan myself, I really enjoy meeting people that I admire. And the penultimate for me was last year I got to meet Big Bird. And I actually cried meeting Big Bird. And I turned 4 years old. I didn't even call him Big. I called him when I was little. I looked at him and went, "Oh, B-Bird," and just started crying. Tim looked at me and said, "I think we're going to take her to bed now. She's had a long day."
Why like you get such an assortment of everything. I love when you have like multiple worlds collide at a thing. You have like the Star Trek people and the Star Wars people and the vampire people and the zombie. I was at what was it? It was in where the hell was I? It was way in the middle of nowhere. Pocatello, Idaho. As in the song, but as in Pocatello, Idaho, born in a trunk and in Pocatello, and Snake River or something. And they had zombies and mermaids and Star Wars and Star Trek and comic books and Little House on the Prairie. It was bonkers. They just had everything. Every fandom was represented, and so it was a wonderful collision of things. That was good. I was at a thing in France. And all the fans lined up for autographs, and most people were wearing 1800s sort of bonnety garb. except for some reason one guy was in full white stormtrooper costume. And I think it was that there was a convention for the other, the sci-fi people were up the road. And we were having an 1800s thing, but the guy drove over from the other convention because he wanted to meet me. And it was just like, what is going on? So yeah, I like when the worlds collide thing at events. It's nice.
How about you, Karen?
I'm pretty new to conventions, and so I don't have one of these remarkable stories, but it's been so rewarding to find the appreciation that we get from our fans. I think we have the nicest fans in the world.
We do. We definitely do. 100% we do.
How about any memorable gifts you've received from fans?
At conventions or just in general?
Just in general.
Oh.
I mean, great or not as great.
I'm actually going to tell a story about a friend of mine because I have gotten some interesting things in the mail. But a friend of mine, an actor friend of mine, Charlie Slaughter, somebody shaved off their fingerprint.
What?
And sent them in an envelope. Yeah, no, it's a little, and I can't say the title. Yeah, it was a little Hannibal Lecter-ish, kind of creepy. That's terrible.
Do you remember when we got the little fuzzy yarn worms?
Yes, the bookmarks.
The bookmarks. They were bookmarks. Someone who
Crocheted bookmarks for us.
Apparently crocheted compulsively 24 hours a day.
All of us kids on the thing.
Everybody on the show got a whole box of them. And it was a box, and it was multi. Someone said to crochet these like weird little. They were bookworms. And they looked like little worms.
Bookworms
tails.
is what they were called.
And they had the little googly eyes glued on. But each one was a different character from the show, and every single character of the main family in the second were all represented. It was like a box of 8.
Yeah, those were fun.
And there were.
I do remember getting a lot of mail from prison. I didn't know at the time, but they kept a lot of that from me because I was little, and why would anybody want to tell me that? But I did find out later that I got a lot of mail from prison.
I still do.
I don't think that it's funny. I mean, can you imagine?
No.
The life?
That I do, yeah.
You know.
Now, yes.
If they're in, if it's obvious they're in for something not particularly violent or terrible, they say, look, this is my thing I'm doing, collecting autographed pictures in prison. I'm like, all right. Once we did, it was a letter where we had to call the warden and go, we have an issue, this guy needs to not be writing to people.
I'm not talking about them doing anything wrong. I mean, they're in prison for whatever they did, so they're serving their time, possibly for something they didn't do. And for me, it's more like I get to be free, you know.
That I get as an adult 100%, but at 9 it was a little.
I sent them stuff. I said I only had a couple times where they were inappropriate and clearly there was like an issue and but if it's just like I stole something, I was on drugs, if there are things that happened to me, and it's like, well, you're collecting. All right then. And so they got their pictures. I'll send them. But I always know the envelope because there's the number. There's the special code. It's like from number, P.O. Box, and usually Pennsylvania or something.
Here's a little bit more of a random one, but if you chose to show up to a convention wearing some sort of cosplay, what would you cosplay as? What would you dress up as for a convention?
Nellie.
It's basically, you can do Halloween any time of year is basically how we typically do that.
For me, that question is odd because I dress up for a living, right? So I always found, like, as a child, I loved Halloween, and I did love dressing up at Halloween when I was little. But as an adult, I never went to Halloween parties and dressed up much because I dressed up for work. So it never really occurred. I mean, maybe Big Bird, just because I mentioned his name earlier.
Because there's so many weird fandom. I don't know. I see all the lovely like anime kind of costumes and that stuff, and I wish I actually like read the books and watched cartoons and knew who the heck you were being. I'm terrible because I go, oh, I should do that, except I don't know who any of those people are. I would have to say Sailor Moon. I could, go be blonde. I could be Sailor Moon.
This whole world is beyond me. No. Sorry.
That was such an excellent answer.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to dive more into randomness. So, if you were stranded on a desert island, what 3 things, knowing that that's where you were headed, I guess, what 3 things would you bring with you? Not people, items, objects.
I had a person.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll allow it.
Melissa's husband.
Aww.
My husband is so in love with her. Oh my gosh. That's actually, it's a brilliant answer because he's like Mr. Everything guy. He could build a house from palm fronds. My answer was so much less interesting. Like my first thought was fried chicken, a lighter, sunscreen.
That was the first thing I was. Sunblock. Yeah. I SPF 5000 for.
Can I have a cell phone? Why not a cell phone?
Well,
A
Mark,
sat
You
phone.
just call somebody.
A sat phone.
A sat phone.
Yeah. Then you just
Get me
call
off
police.
this island.
Yeah. A boat. It's kind of.
Gilligan's?
oh,
I didn't say that. I didn't say the second part, so it doesn't count, right?
What if you
There's so many
had,
people named Gilbert.
if you could have any superpower for one day, what would it be?
Mind reading.
oh,
Invisibility. I'll be sneaking up on all of you.
I did this with my kids once. We were sitting outside. I had all 4 boys at the same time, and they had some really interesting superpower ideas. My one child, who's 6'5", said he would just get in the way all the time. My youngest child said screaming was his superpower. I'm flying. I'd fly. I would like to fly. Fly.
Do you have any book recommendations that you can give us for anything you're currently reading or maybe your favorite books?
Their books.
I just read a wonderful novel called Lessons in Chemistry, and it's not about lessons in chemistry. It's really wonderful, very heartwarming, funny, smart book by an author called Bonnie Garmis. It's her first book, and it's a breakout bestseller, and boy, you can sure see why. I just loved it.
I'm actually having a really fun time. I'm reading my way through, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Mary Roach. She wrote Stiff, Gulp, Grunt, Bonk, and Spirit. And her books are, like Stiff is an examination of what happens after we die to our bodies, whether they're donated to science, or they're donated to the FBI, or they're, and it's fascinating. Gulp is the alimentary canal. Spirit, or Spook, it's called Spook, is scientific analysis of what happens to our spirit after we die. Bonk is human sexuality, but she writes with such humor.
Yes, I read Stiff. It's great.
Stiff is great. She's hilarious, and it's really informative. I've really enjoyed these books. I didn't think I would. I just had no idea about it. And one of my girlfriends said, you of all people will love this. And I'm having a great time with them.
I'm reading a lot of weird sci-fi. I get those things where it's like, it's a bargain on Kindle for $1.99. I go, okay. It's like the Scholastic Book Fair where you buy all of them. It's that. Right now, I'm reading a strange science fiction. I'm always reading like all this apocalyptic stuff. It's like, you know, like there's not enough going on. I have to read about the end of the world. I'm like weird.
And it's not surprised.
The never-ending end of the world. It's very, very weird. It's like something has happened to time and it's all off and it's fascinating. And then the other one I was just reading, if I go back to, is called City on Fire. And it's all a whole novel set in New York in the 70s, following all these different characters. It's fascinating.
Are there any particular fields of interest that you have that do not involve the entertainment industry that you can share with us? Anything that you're particularly passionate about that doesn't have anything to do with entertainment?
I'm passionate about climate change. I'm very worried about climate change, and I'm thinking, I don't know how much time I have left here, but I'm thinking, what can I do for the people who do have time left here? This summer in particular has been so mind-boggling in terms of the climate events that have gone on all around the world, you know. Yep. I mean, there is no place that is safe. I first realized this when that storm hit Montecito, you know, where all the beautiful people live, in the most beautiful town, in the most beautiful houses, by the hills, by the ocean, you know, everything is perfect. And those boulders did not care, you know, they just came rolling out of the hills, just smashing people, houses, mud, you know, everything. And I thought, oh, there is no place that you can go and hide anymore. So that's very much on my mind, yeah. Thank you.
My focus at this point actually has been on, a little over a year ago I launched a lifestyle brand called Modern Prairie, and there is a retail component to it, but it really has grown into this community for the maturing woman. The majority of women who are part of our community are 50 and older, although we do have women who are in their 40s. But what we've created, my partner Nicole Hazy and I have created, has really started to sort of blossom into something greater than I could possibly have imagined. And now I have this wonderful community of these women who are supporting each other as they go through these changes in their lives, whether it's menopause and hormonal changes or life changes, losing a partner or a spouse, children moving away from home, caring for aging parents. And we started doing these wonderful workshops. Alison was a part of one of our workshops on resiliency and overcoming hardships and obstacles. We've done everything from how to deal with grief through the holidays to how to make the perfect pie crust. We have crafting, and we now have an app, the Modern Prairie app, and I'm there every day reading, and I'm now seeing women start to get together with one another and go on adventures. We just did a workshop on how to travel alone for the first time and how to start that process of getting out and how to get unstuck and how to have boundaries and limits. And we're launching two big initiatives. We're really getting into sort of the menopause space and having, not from a retail perspective or anything, but giving women the inspiration to advocate for themselves. I just fired my gynecologist because she didn't have specialized menopausal, postmenopausal training. She just did the standard course, and I wanted someone, a doctor in my life, who would take me a step further. I don't want to do I didn't want to do HRT, but I do want to talk about the issues of my aging body with someone who understands it. And so we have that, and then we're launching a huge initiative on food justice. And all of our, we have a group of trusted Prairians who are our experts in various fields, and we're all going to our local food banks to work and volunteer, and the women in our community are coming as well. And then this, towards the end of the year, we're launching a program to, we'll have templates to help people start farmers markets of their own in their own area, whether it's urban or suburban. And we'll be providing chefs to come in to teach people how to cook vegetables that they're not familiar with, and to make sure that people and children have access to healthy whole foods, and are also supporting their local farms. So that's my
Really
Well, I'm still president of the board of the National Association to Protect Children, or protect.org. We changed laws in 7 states and some at the federal level regarding the protection of children, and laws regarding child abuse. We're doing some stuff now, partnering actually with some corporations, because our guys, a lot of the guys of the Hero Corps program, where we trained veterans in computer forensics and partnered them out to like ICAC, the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the police departments. We're now looking at partnering with corporations who may be looking to find material that they do not want anymore on their servers for people who are doing things at work that they're not supposed to be doing at all, and get that to law enforcement because people are hiding things on their work computer. So we're attacking that end. So we still have the thing we call the Weiss Center for Child Rescue Technology, where we actually develop technology and software to aid the police and these people in finding this kind of trafficking and child abuse, sexual material. And there's a whole arts program we're partnering with, because so many kids were in the thing where they were home and having to learn online, which put them in a weird position. It was like, woohoo, great, there's all this great stuff you can learn online, but like, as we know, the internet is an insanely dangerous place for children. So suddenly you had a huge population of kids who may not have been used to the internet, or parents who may not have been savvy, suddenly flung into the internet, and yeah, you can bet that resulted in lots of problems. So we're like kind of trying to deal with that and get arts programs and education to a lot of these kids. And then I may be working on another project with some other previous Protect folk on yet another political campaign. So more irons in the fire, but yeah, that there.
Nice.
Well, we do want to go ahead and get wrapped up, but I have one final question. So is there a piece of advice that maybe you received that you can pass on to somebody else who might be interested in joining the acting profession?
And we all kind of look horrified here. I don't know, is that like it? Don't do it. One of those? We're like, no?
My advice would be to do as many plays as you can, as often as you can, and see where it goes.
I always tell people to start where they are, because I will have people say, my kid wants to get into it, or a young person, teenager, say, I want to get in it. I go, well, where do you live now? Don't jump on the plane to New York or LA, God damn. So I say, where are you now? You have a community theater, you have theater at your high school, you have theater at the college. Go there and go do that. And then, you know, work around. And I say, if you really are in the middle of nowhere, go to the school place and get the director to write you a note, like a letter of reference. They were professional, they showed up to rehearsal, they knew their lines, they were good. And collect those, so when you do take yourself to the big city, you have like something like, hi, I actually did this and it was not terrible.
When you're doing it, my advice would be plant your feet, say your words, and listen.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here. Let's do one more round of applause. Melissa!